I'd like to call today's Board of Education meeting to order. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Do I have a second? All in favor? Thank you. Dr. Freeman?
Okay, board members, this is a night to celebrate the arts, and I can't wait. And I'm so thankful you all are here. It's a crowded room, but this is so worth it to be together and to celebrate something that is near and dear to the legacy of Vestavia Hill City Schools. And so tonight we've got a lot of fun things to talk about. Centers on the great work of our students and the wonderful coaches and teachers that they have surrounding them. So I want to start first with a group that really kind of bridges the gap of arts and athletics. They're a little bit of both, and they're national champions. And that's real nice to have that combination. So let me get the junior varsity Rebelettes to come up. Charity, or where's Charity?
She's
Come join
either
us.
in the parking lot or she's right there.
Sure. Hey, there she is. All right, you're up. Come on up to the front. Right.
Look at y'all.
All right. Okay. The Junior Varsity Rebelettes traveled in March to the national competition, which is in Orlando. Not a good place to go, but if you got to go somewhere for national. So during the competition, the Junior Varsity Rebelettes won a national championship in the game day division. Somebody tell us what game day division is.
So game day is kind of a combination of 3 separate pieces. So every school has to start with their traditional fight song that their band plays, and what they would do for that, say for like a pep rally type thing. And then the second piece is supposed to be something that would be performed like at a basketball game for a timeout, something quick, about 30 seconds long. And then the last piece would be a halftime performance. So it all together can't be more than 3 minutes long, and you kind of have to string it all together with vocals and transitions in between each piece. So it's a fun thing. I think they liked it.
They won an additional award that had to do with fight song called an Unleashed Award. But
Yes.
what I liked about the wording in this is it's also for all around cohesive performance. So I don't know any other way to describe it any better.
Yeah.
It's cohesive.
Yeah.
So how long did this take to get to a point where you competed to win a national championship?
Well, we started with this routine, at the end of August? Sorry, no, end of October is what I mean. So they learned this piece later in the year than what they would, another competition piece that they had, but they started on it in October. So once our local competitions are over in January, we really focus on this piece during the month of February. So that gives us a good amount of time to get it ready.
Excellent. Coach, would you introduce your squad here? And I'm going to hand you a pen. We have this as a thank you for being great ambassadors for us.
I'm Charity Jones, and this is Abby Word. She is our captain. And then Edie Monroe and Josie Blanchard. And y'all can give her a hi. And Claire Willoughby and Harper Avery, Anna Harmon, Lily Stockard, JC Tate, and she is also a co-captain. Sophie Nix, Addie Tarrant, who is also a co-captain, Tarbor Griffin, and Emmy Passman and Emma Mainers. So, and I think Brady is not here, and Emily Watson. Is that it? And Virginia, I'm sorry. Yes, Virginia had hip surgery. So she was, yes.
National champion. Seniors in the group, these are primarily.
These are all freshmen and sophomores.
Wow. Okay, no expectations. Good, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, they have a very tall freshman. We didn't bring the trophy along. It's 3 feet tall. it was interesting trying to get it. Okay, thank you. Congratulations.
Yeah.
I want to invite our music teachers from the whole school system to come up. I see them, I think, folks right here. Come on up, Brent. Okay, if you have had a child come through Vestavia Hills schools, you went through the music programs in kindergarten through fifth, and then we have hundreds of kids that are part of our programs, I should say thousands, that are part of all of our arts programs. They come through middle school all the way through high school. This is an absolutely stellar group of educators. And what I appreciate most about them is they're not really contented people. They are really wonderful at their craft, but they are pushing constantly to do more, not only to challenge the kids, but they are pushing themselves. The certifications that they go for and gain, the additional education that they do, that really is a benefit to us because it's a give back. And I can tell you as a parent, I'm so thankful that my boys get to go to music every week. This is a blessing that we don't have, many communities do not have. And a lot of our kids love it so much, they just stay with you, don't you? And then they get to take trips like Disney last week, as our kids do. And I think some going this week. And so I don't know, I think we have a weekly subscription to Orlando with our arts programs, but you can see what happens. They go, they perform well, they do exceptionally well, and they're recognized nationally for the 5th year in a row. Our music programs have been designated by the National Association of Music Merchants Foundation as 2022 Best Communities for Music Education. The NAM Foundation, as it's called, takes into consideration a number of criteria when selecting its honorees, which include funding for music ed, participation in instructional time in music classes, and community support for music programs. This is the 5th consecutive year that BHCS has been honored as one of the best communities for music ed, and we're one of only 4 districts in Alabama to receive the designation according to the release from this national foundation. Okay, this is fantastic. So I don't know who the spokesperson in the group is, but I wanted to see if you might all for the group about the meaning of this designation.
I'll speak. I think a recognition like this, especially for us with the many hours that we put in, not just during the school day, but also outside the school day to try to make the best experience for our students that we can possibly have, is validation for the time that we spend and the experiences that we do get to provide for our students. And the joy, the look on their faces when they finally figure it out, and that everything that they work hard for, and that their accomplishment that they have received is really, it's amazing. It's huge. And so we're just proud of each other. And I think that's one of the neat things about our school system. Not every school system has this, that we all root for each other. We're not jealous of each other in our programs, and we support each other. And I can honestly say that from some of my colleagues, I'm sure you all could probably say the same thing from across our state, that this is not normal. And we're the exception to the rule.
If you want to see some finished products, what happens during the year, the next few weeks is a great time to do that. So some of you may have attended Anastasia over the weekend at the high school. To me, that's like a pinnacle moment of where a lot of this comes together in the arts. I mean, it's just a culmination of all of that. We actually have state champions from our theater program that we recognized earlier this school year, but that's one example of it. But we've got jazz coming up, I think, and we've got some of it's inside, some of it's outside. You can just get it about anywhere you want to. So take advantage of this high quality, incredible sounds that come out because of the work of this group of teachers. So thank you guys so much. Congratulations. Well deserved. So before you go, just so everybody knows, identify so you are named, the school that you're teaching, what you do. Start with Jarrell.
Jarrell Horton High School Band. Heather Palmer High School Band.
Brent Coleman, Visits Middle School.
Taylor Strickland High School Choir.
Leah Say, Pizzitz Middle School Band.
Victoria Chambliss, Pizzitz Middle School Band.
Noah Burns High School Choir.
Melissa McIntyre, Liberty Park Elementary.
Trudy Contasori, West Elementary.
Deanna Bell, East Elementary. Debbie Pugh, Papa Heights Elementary.
And Kate Donaldson, and I'm at Dolly Ridge.
Right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. All right. Now, I want to shift over to the arts and look at some beautiful work that some of our students have brought. And I didn't realize till a few moments ago that some of the parents don't even know what we're going to show. So that's good. Well, I'm charged each year with picking out certain works of art that go to the state competition for this arts exhibit. And so these are the ones that you'll see tonight that were chosen to represent the Vestavia Hills City Schools. And there are a lot of great ones. Dr. Pennington and I looked at these, and I'm not a aficionado of art, but I can tell the effort that goes into this work. So I was thrilled to be a part of it. But I want to show you some of the work. And when yours comes up, students, okay, your name's going to be up there. So you just come on up when we call you out. So we'll see you and brag on you for just a second.
Reconnecting here.
All right, here we go. This is Bird's Eye Cityscape, Liam Blakely, Vestavia Elementary, Kyle Heights. Liam's with us tonight.
Yeah, he's right there.
Come on up, Liam, come on. Any inspiration you want to say that led you to this?
I mean, we were tasked with making a bird's eye cityscape view, and I like the colors. I like the colors that I picked. I just thought they looked really nice together. I'm not sure what else to say.
Congratulations, that's fantastic. Okay, this is Rainbow Forest by Sarah Bowell, to the Vestavia Elementary Liberty Park. Sarah, would you tell us about this?
I was trying to think what to make. I was like, hey, I'll just make something abstract. So I was
So this is abstract. So does it have a meaning? That's why it's called abstract. That's beautiful, I love the colors. Yeah, and what grade are you in? Third grade.
fifth.
Fifth grade, okay, good stuff. All right. This is called Illuminated by Lindsay Lube, I think I've got that right. Liberty Park Middle School. Lindsay with us this evening?
Not here.
Okay. All right, that's beautiful, isn't it? Self-portrait, Maddie Crawford.
Oh, wow.
Maddie, what gave you inspiration?
I guess a picture of me. We created, we used like a computer program to generate, like, we put a picture of us into it to kind of generate this here, and I painted that. And
It's beautiful. Okay. All right, this is Cinesomnia. There it is, parents. Elizabeth Doss. Okay, Elizabeth's an award winner already today at the high school. So tell us about this.
Well, for AP photography, we pick a theme to kind of take pictures for that theme throughout the year, and so I kind of just wanted to experiment with different colors and lighting, so.
That's beautiful. And so who's in it? Did you
That's
take?
me,
You.
yes.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right, this is Northern Lights by Savannah. Is it some school? Beautiful. Is Savannah with us this evening? Okay. Magazine collage, Mary Evelyn Crandall. So freshman. Now this one's a little harder to appreciate, so explain, if you will, what for those that are tactile, what's actually going on here.
We had a mosaic magazine collage we had to make of either a person or like an animal or pet, and we had to use little magazine pieces that were like that big about, and the paper was probably that big, and I just drew a person just off the top of my head and I use different shades from skin tones and magazines and other colors.
Really, bizarre. All right. A Day in the Life by Rachel Who, City Hills High School. Rachel with us. Roller coaster rally. City Hills Elementary East Rally. Can you talk to us about this work? This is beautiful.
Basically, we had an assignment and we did, it was a sheet of paper and it was like tiny and we drew like stuff on it and then we just sanitized 2 corners of the paper. And just had to trace it like 4 times.
Ms. Sharp, what do you think about this?
I love it. I love it.
So good, thank you. All right. This is Rainbows. Get it. We paid our subscription.
That's Should be back up just a second.
Rainbow City by Jane Johnson, the Heroes Elementary Liberty Park. Jane, what grade are you in?
Fifth.
Fifth grade. Tell us about this.
So I kind of wanted to draw like a city, and once I kind of like drew the basic outline, I just wanted to kind of do something fun with it. So I just kind of like was experimenting with like different sizes for like doors and windows, and
Well, what I appreciated about this was the patience it likely took for you to draw those squares. And then neatly color around it. Yes, excellent. All right. Radiating shapes.
Oh.
This is kind of like the cityscape. That looks sort of like yours.
It's more colorful.
Is Alex with us? Is this a similar type project? Ms. Sharp, maybe can help me with this?
Yes.
Did you- okay,
Yeah,
thank
so we're teaching 1 point perspective. So we just approached it through a different subject matter where he did the cityscape and this is kind of the radiating shapes coming out from the middle. This will teach you that perspective.
What grade's Alex in?
Fifth grade.
Fifth grade. Please. Pass it fifth grade. Rooster by Chloe. That's the one. Okay, you have some inspiration on this one? Forward.
Well, I was just bored at home and I found a picture of a rooster that I liked, so I just painted it.
It'd be great to be bored with that kind of talent. Beautiful. I just, it looks real. I mean, those, what I thought stood out to me was the feathers. It just was beautiful. All right. Me and Storm, Randy Miller. Randy, come on up. Randy, tell us about this. I feel like there's probably some inspiration here in this picture.
Well, we were told to bring a picture to school, and we were given like film and then like paint pens to like do it over. And so I chose to paint a picture of my cat, and I bought this taco hat for him. So I thought that would be funny to do, and I just kind of layered the paint.
That's beautiful and all of the colors. Yeah. Dragon eye. Abigail Cotillo. Another one of those I thought great patience. Beautiful. Mango, sunflower, so yep. Sepulveda. See this? All right. I by Victoria Stern is it. Details are amazing here to me, Victoria. So what was your inspiration?
I thought that you guys were very thoughtful and you were very peaceful.
The detail of the eyes. All right. Magical Eye by Amy Thompson. Tell us about this.
We were doing an art project in class. We were all drawing dragon eyes. And those are some of my favorite colors.
Beautiful. So all the kids at Otter Ridge will be able to draw this way. I mean, I'm just curious. Curious. My two aren't drawing quite that way. Great job. All right. Family Farm. Love this one. Debbie Thompson. Living with us. Great traditional, feel good. ABY, Abigail Whitehead, with the Department of School. Oh, is it surprise?
Yes.
All right, well, tell us about this one.
Well, I just had inspiration from when I was looking at my son's mirror that it was a cool reflection. And one of my friends' names is actually B, so I just incorporated bees and then searched up looking at the opposite.
Oh, nice. Hidden pictures. Okay, Porter, come on up. I'll put you right there in the middle, Porter, okay? This guy's a baseball player too, and he's a state honorable mention for this picture called Hidden Pictures. Porter, tell us about this.
So basically you get like 2 pieces of paper, and one of them you cut like little triangles, like crystals, and put them on. And you put like little, like pictures in the background and like on the crystals and stuff.
Yes, you have to get real close. You can see this, a lot of the detail he's talking about within the darker colors, what all he drew in. Ms. Sharp, any comments on this one?
I'm just really proud of him. All the little hidden pictures in there, I noticed later, there's a lightsaber and water gun maybe or something like that. It's really detailed and wonderful, and we're really proud.
We need to take this to baseball practice and show everybody. Do those things well. A little bit of arts, a little bit of athletics. It's beautiful. These guys, aren't they super talented? Congratulations. You know, there was an art show last week in the high school that shows a lot of the well-roundedness of our program. It's quite impressive. This is a sample of some of the many great works that are done. So I'm really glad that you submitted to this. I love just being a part of it and pick them out. I can't wait to see over the years with this group of students what you bring to us next. Congratulations. Thanks for coming tonight. Parents, I'd like you to stay if you'd like.
It's like All right. Our next item is financial statement.
I have provided the March 2022 financial statements and check register for your review. As of March 2022, we have collected 90.5% of our budgeted ad valorem tax revenues compared to the 90.1% that we have received this time last year.
At the end of March, our collections are about 1.3 million above where they were last year at this time. Our total expenditures in the general fund as of March 31st were 54% of the budget compared to 52% last year. All things being equal, in the 6th month of our fiscal year, we should be around 50% of our budgeted expenditures. So 54% is reasonable considering we've already paid several large annual expenditures for debt, subscriptions, liability insurance, and our local revenue allocation transfers to the schools. Monthly financial statements and check registers are available for viewing on the board website after they are approved, and all the board bank accounts have been reconciled as of March 31st, 2023.
Several transfer out to these, just in case there's other folks who are looking at that. What's that?
That's what I just added to the end of my sentence on expenditures, but those are our local revenue allocations that we transfer out to schools. It's an amount that we budget out of our local ad valorem taxes that we send out to the schools. It's based on per ADM.
And what are we seeing per student?
I think it's $105 per student.
I have one other question, Dr. Martin, maybe one for you, that's going through here. And sometimes things just kind of strike you, and I think one of the expenses we have this month is roughly $195,000 for electricity. Right? What does it cost just to keep the lights on at our facilities?
I've given a copy of basically fiscal years, 18 to 22, and so I can just share with you Alabama Power monthly. You're looking at, on average, about 17,000. Let's see.
Over the course of the year, it's over $2 million.
Yeah, that's right. And if you look, that's the one thing I did want to point out. If you look at FY21, so in FY21, that's when we had the lightning strike east. And then we would recoup those funds with insurance. So what you'll see is an expenditure to an Alabama Power will then be recouped back to the general fund through another line item. So
I think it's just in terms, sometimes we don't really understand, we see these and then we say, well, what does this actually cost? Just put the lights on before we do anything else, pay the teachers, all the expenses. We're well over $2.5 million. Of course, I'm here.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Corey.
Oh, you need a recommendation? I recommend board approve the financial statement for March 2022.
Board, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation for approval of the financial statement for March 2022. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Board members, item 6, I recommend that you approve consent items related to disposal of property, which includes textbooks and technology equipment, in-state overnight field trips, which include some from the high school, out-of-state trip, one from Liberty Park, and some out-of-state overnight from Pizzitz Middle School as well. Some of these go into next year, and I do want to point out that one of the things we'll do this year as part of a policy review is to put together some procedures related to field trips. We do have procedures, but we want to review those, and there are some particular areas with field trips we want to make sure we have more unanimity or together on what we're doing when we send kids to field trips related to fundraising and just other general procedures.
Board, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation for approval of consent items. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 7 is business. Our first item on the business agenda is our FY21 audits. Jason Hart with Car Rigs and Ingram is here this evening, and Jason is going to share with you the results of the audit for your information. Jason.
Thank you very much, Dr. Freeman. Again, my name is Jason Hart. I want to briefly just go over the financial statement audit. You have that in front of you, and I think Courtney sent that out Friday, so you've had a few days to look through. But where I'd like to start is on our audit opinion letter. If you flip about 3 or 4 pages in, you'll see our letter that looks like this. Basically, this belongs to us, and everything behind this letter technically belongs to the board. So all the numbers, all of that belongs to you. We perform our audit of those numbers, and then we present our opinion, which we're issuing an unmodified opinion, which is what we call a clean opinion on the financial statement. Our opinion goes through some of the processes that we do just in the financial statement audit. So it isn't that we're necessarily looking at every single transaction. We do a lot of testing, sampling, confirming, recomputing, and that's what kind of goes on in that. And this is what this letter addresses. There's also in the very back a required communication letter that goes into even more detail, and I won't go through that whole letter, but basically it talks about some of the estimates that the board uses primarily with pensions and your other post-employment benefit liabilities and other items too related to things like that. And also we didn't have any disagreements with management or anything over any accounting policies. So those are a couple of important things that I wanted to hit on. Also, if you'll turn to page 9. Page 9, and not to get back into a lot of accounting things, but in any governmental accounting, it's really unusual. You have two forms of accounting going on. You have fund accounting, which is what you hear every month from Courtney, general fund, special revenue fund, local school funds, and then you have regular full accrual accounting that contains long-term liabilities like pension liability, other post-employment benefit, and your fixed assets. But where we primarily live is in the fund income statements. If you look down, you'll see that your general fund, you added about $530,000 for the year ending 9/30/21 to your general fund. And that's good because it pushed your 30-day or pushed your fund balance above 30 days. I'm computing about 31 or 32 days of fund balance at 9/30/21, which means if you close down, you've got roughly 31 days of operations just in your fund balance. And of course, the state has 30 days. Last year, I think we were around 26, so we're certainly moving up where we need to be above 30. So that's good news as far as financial health being above the 30-day mark is what you want to be. So really with that, that's the couple of main things I just wanted to talk about, and certainly answer any questions that you might have about the auditing process. One thing we do, and we don't give an opinion on it, but naturally in any government setting, payroll is obviously the big expense. And we do a lot of internal control testing around payroll. We don't give an opinion on that, but we have to rely on your controls to make sure that they're in place to detect, correct, and prevent an error. So in the process of testing those, we didn't find anything that we would need to report on related to internal controls. We do the same thing with your disbursements. So related to your utility bill, we want to make sure that there's purchase orders, items like that where they're being approved, even with your monthly approvals. That's part of the internal control process. So we go through that just to give us extra assurance that a lot of the numbers in here are going to meet our materiality threshold. So,
Jason, to the extent CRI gives an opinion, what do you offer for the audit for Vestavia City Schools?
well, again, it's, we do our unmodified opinion, which back to that is materiality concept. So, in that, we create a materiality amount, do our testing around that. We didn't have to post any journal entries related to anything to change any of the numbers, which is obviously good and a compliment to Ms. Brown, related to that. So that's kind of where we, I guess, stick to that with this kind of opinion. Certainly, I guess the help, just the 30 days is important also, although we're not necessarily giving an opinion on that. You want to be above that.
So for a non-accountant, this is a good.
It is good, Back to this, I wish I could tell you, give me a green check or red X, get a green check. So that's really where that goes. And again, going back years ago, not to get into it, I think our rules are the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. That's who sets the rules for this. And over time, this has gotten more and more complicated. So it continues to be, year after year, they issue new things out. Some are good, but then in their effort to be clear, it can kind of muddle things up. So probably in the next 2 or 3 years, I think they're going to redo all this once again, and I hope they make it in a way where it's a little simpler to understand for non-accountants. But there's a lot of information in here. A ton of stuff just revolves around pensions and other post-employment benefit liabilities. A good portion of your footnotes just is related to that. So you could read through that, but it might put you to sleep. But it's required disclosures that are important, probably primarily to bond rating agencies. They look in into that a lot, just to make sure, they understand what's going on.
Questions?
Well, we appreciate Ms. Brown and her staff, and all that she'll tell you is, aggravating and it's disruptive, and they do a good job of getting us in, getting what we need, and getting us out. So I certainly want to thank her staff for their hard work.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Board, this is not an actionable item, it's just information for you. It has draft on it, but that's just because there are a few little minor details that are wrapping up with it, but it's.
This will be available.
Yeah, it's posted online. Yeah, all of our audits, I think they maybe have a little separate category online, but they're posted for public. Yes, sir. All right, item B, I recommend the board approve the 23-24 school calendar.
Board, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation for approval of the 23-24 school calendar. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks.
This gets us 2 years ahead where we've been trying to get for just a little while, but I appreciate Dr. Rainey's work on that and our calendar committee. And our faculty did a vote on this one and they received 3 different ones. I want to say it's about 80% of
It was
the
about
vote.
80% of
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
And that's taking off at Thanksgiving and coming back January 15th.
That one got all the votes. All right. Item C, this is an information item I want to share with you related to the virtual policy. We have had in place for several years a virtual policy that, by that I mean that we offer instruction virtually. And up until 2 years ago, this policy really was in play and enforced in that students in grades 9 through 12 are eligible for virtual instruction to some degree, depending on circumstances, and it's provided through a state provider known as Access. Of course, during pandemic, we made the decision to offer virtual, and certainly we had a number of people in the 2021 year who took part of it, well over 1,000. This year, I believe our high points were somewhere around 60 to 70 students that did it. We modified from what we did the first year pandemic to this year for largely secondary students, but we did have some situations where we did have a few elementary. But as it stands today, how many, Dr. Rainey? 33 total in the system are participating in virtual, and there are a few of those that are below 9th grade. But what I want to share with you is that our intention to reinstitute, if you will, this policy for 9 through 12 being the virtual option that exists in our school system for next school year. There are some parents I know who've asked me some questions about that, and I wanted to make sure that we address that both in the principals. I know it's in part of registration, we'll be discussing that, but albeit there are oftentimes some very small exigent circumstances that we would look at, but within the policy itself, 9 through 12.
This is the
That's
same
best.
policy we had pre-pandemic that we had.
It is. Yeah, we made the decision not to make a policy adjustment. We just acted, of course, in a state of emergency, but we want to move back to putting this into practice. All right, item D, I recommend the board approve the low bid from Bennett Building Incorporation for installation of a scoreboard.
Board, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation for approval of bid on installing the Bendall scoreboard. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I want to note to you, board members, this was not part of our original capital plan. It is a project that's come along just recently because of the availability of non-public funds. There's been a lot of donations made toward the athletics program, so athletics is really taking care of this on behalf of. But the long-term benefit, I think, is something we'll talk more about later, but the advertising dollars that come from it will certainly benefit programs in athletics.
And Dr. Freeman, these dollars for this are above and beyond what athletics has already raised, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. They're coming from special donations that they're coming in for this project.
But we will manage, you will manage the
Managed
installation.
project and installation, yes. And we are looking for one more anchor sponsor.
On the Bendall
I
scoreboard.
think it's already on it, so do we have a time frame? I mean, seriously?
I'll just remind you that our first 3 games next season for football are home games. So we are pushing really hard for that August 18th Tight timeline, but working hard to get there.
Like the track. Okay.
The Zen service.
All right. Item E, I recommend the board approve the contract with Bennett Building Incorporated for installation of scoreboard.
Board, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation for, wait a minute, now, say that again.
Item E.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry. For approval of the contract on scoreboard installation. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
Item F, I recommend the board reject the bids for field house improvements.
Board, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation for rejection of bids for the field house improvements. Do I have a motion to approve? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Would you like to?
Yes, sir. This is for some additional build out in our field house to create some meeting spaces, et cetera. The board, you've seen the bid totals, they came in above budget. This is another project that's being funded through donations, non-public funds, through athletics. And so it is not within budget. And so we will rebid this likely at some point in the near future. That will be a different version of the budget. Item G, I recommend the board approve the resolution for Patchwork Farms.
Board, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation for approval of resolution for Patchwork Farms. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Item H, I recommend the board approve the Vestavia Hills Elementary Cobb Heights probationary principal contract for Lauren Dressback.
Board, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation for approval of Vestavia Hills Elementary Cobb Heights probationary principal contract for Lauren Dressback. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Move on.
Mr. Dressback, congratulations.
She was sweating while
I introduced Lauren to the faculty earlier this afternoon. Of course, they know her, but just introducing it, I plan to recommend it to her this afternoon. I liked the way that she talked about what this meant and just belonging to the family at Cobb Heights. So I don't want to take away that. It was really nice what you said, but maybe share with the board.
Sure. I told them this experience of being their interim, like I kind of felt like I was being fostered, like I was in a foster family, and that today was my adoption day. That's how I felt, that I've gotten to come to my forever home. And it's been a ride, a very enjoyable one, and I'm thrilled to get to stay on it.
Yeah. Congratulations.
I've received nothing but glowing comments and remarks, Lauren.
Well, buckle up, because now we're, no, I'm just kidding.
I'll tell you what, I got 1 month left, you go for it.
Item I recommend the board approve the chief school finance officer contract for Ms. Courtney Brown.
Board, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation for approval of the CSFO contract of Ms. Courtney Brown. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Congratulations, Ms. Brown. Well deserved.
Thank you,
This has been, I think you heard tonight from Mr. Hart, we're starting to see the benefits of, I think, very prudent financial management that Courtney's put in place. And it's something we keep working on. We have goals this board does for what we want to do with reserve, but also to continue to provide the programs for our students that our community expects. And managing all that is quite short. Courtney's done a great job. She and I started almost together. And it's been talking about a ride, it's been quite a ride. And it's really in a great direction, so thank you.
In addition to that, Courtney's had to do a lot of things that a CSFO probably would have had with the grade development stuff. It's been heavily taxed on Courtney to provide us the information that we need to make the decisions to then help the city. So
Yeah, it's some
and that's
unprecedented,
probably not your job, general job description.
unprecedented things, federal funds,
Yes.
different funds, things like that.
She was cracking the whip on me by statement of economic impact today. So, I send it to everybody.
Item K, I recommend the board approve the fine arts coordinator job description.
Board, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation for approval of the fine arts coordinator job description. Do I have a motion to approve? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Talk a little bit about that. Instead of the under personnel, I recommend the board approve the personnel actions as submitted.
Board, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation for approval of personnel. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Before you do that, Dr. Freeman, I think we need to take care of a little bit of business. So I want to say that I've had conversations individually with each board member. It's that time of year where traditionally, if we like the person, we roll their contract over for a year. We kind of like Dr. Freeman. We think he's doing a good job. I was actually on the board at the time that we searched for a superintendent. 2 individuals rose to the top. And we are very fortunate to have both of them sitting in this room working with us today. So Dr. Martin, thank you, sir. Dr. Freeman, thank you, sir. Being on the board, it is apparent to me, and I'm very simple, so I understand that. But this man right here is a CEO like I have not really been around, and I'm in the business world. He's a Renaissance man. I do remember that from my days at Vestavia. So he handles it all. He's a lover of education, the arts, sports, academics, people. He's just a good guy. He has done a great job. He has done everything that we as this board and the previous boards that I have served on have asked him to do in an exemplary manner. So in doing that, we would like to extend Dr. Freeman's contract, not 1 year, but 3 more years, to roll Dr. Freeman to a 5-year contract so that we feel that we would like to lock him up like some of these college football teams and some of these CEOs. So with that in mind, I would like to ask for a motion to approve Dr. Freeman's amendment to his contract.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we did speak with Mr. Boone, so he drew up the contract. He let me know the legalities of everything. And does anybody have any comments regarding this?
But I just like to say, I mean, no matter where I go in the state, whether I talk to other school board members, other officials, almost everybody without question asks me every time, how did you do what you did in the last 18 months to 2 years? And I answer the same every time, Dr. Freeman and his staff, right? Our job is easy because of Dr. Freeman and his staff. So what he's been able to do with a steady hand in a crazy time and keep us not only in school during the pandemic, but continuing all the other efforts that we wanted to do, right? We had paused here and there, but for the most part, we have maintained moving on our strategic plan, moving down the road of progressing to better our schools. So he leads, I agree with Steve, I've come from the business world and I have worked with none finer than I worked at Fortune 500 companies, local companies. He leads by humility, he leads by example, everything he does. So we are blessed to have him not only for 3, but now for 5 years.
Well,
To echo what you all said, and also to count an episode that I was looking up with, having lunch with someone who's been involved in our schools around the state for many years, and he heard that I was on the board with Vestavia. He said, well, y'all got one of, if not the best superintendent in the state. And I think it would be, it's our fiduciary duty here to make sure we lock him up first.
As long as we can.
So, he's performed exemplary under extreme pressure, and we appreciate the leadership.
Well, I just tell everybody you're the next Saban. If you happen to leave, we got the next step. I think we're in good hands. We're very blessed.
I'd like to know what the buyout is.
It's pretty good. You got it locked, so you're gonna be in good hands.
Well,
You're blessed.
I will say that it's been a pleasure to sit back and watch him assemble the staff that he has. Some of y'all were already here, and we appreciate that. You've helped him, and some of you are hires of his. And so it's just the staff and team that he has built and the growth. I mean, look at all the growth that's gone on in the last 4 or 5 years that you guys have had to deal with, bouncing around to different schools. I mean, most of our principals aren't where they started 4 or 5 years ago. So, it's really, it's incredible. And to anybody, Councilor Cook, a little bit later, y'all will be appointing the next board member. He will always tell you in any meeting, hey, I work at your leisure. That's not the case, folks. I'll tell you, he works us to death. This man goes out and looks for things to do. So, but seriously, the future is really, it's exciting. It's not the point I want to do it another one. I'll sit back and watch.
Well, Steve, you're the one we're appointing.
I'll let you deal with my wife. So, but seriously, y'all are in for some exciting things coming up. So thank you.
I really appreciate it. Very kind words. I'm humbled. I think when I interviewed, one of the things that I talked about was just the incredible accolades the school system has had for many years. Those of you who've been students are part of that, taught. Many of those in the year that are part of this leadership team, it's been a great system a long time. And that's because of the people in it. So Steve, I agree with the group that sits out here are the leaders that really move and shake. Blessed to be a part of a team like this. And to this team, you do not see many times the interplay of the support that I get from board members individually. And sometimes it's not always the support of yes. Many times they do what they're supposed to do and hold me accountable to do the things that are best for our system. And that's really what makes us a really good team, you see some of their personalities, and that plays out in dialogues I have with them individually. When they come together, it's a powerhouse. And so it's a dream to get to do this. I'm really humble about the chance to do it. But I will tell you selfishly, I'm most appreciative because I want my boys. All right.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Let's move to administrative reports. We've been celebrating arts, and I want to keep doing that tonight. Dr. Pennington is coming to us to give a report. And while he's coming up, I want to introduce his wife, Cheryl, to you. He's sitting back. And Cheryl, thanks for coming tonight. You just accepted Dr. Pennington's retirement of 30 years as an educator in the state of Alabama, Oxford, and several stops along the way administratively. And a fine gentleman who loves his work. He is a former band director for many years, and so this year has helped us, among many other duties, to try to do some things in the way of improving our arts program. So with his retirement, what we're doing is a bit of a restructure, which includes a position you proved that will be specifically focused on fine arts. And so we'll be doing that in the coming weeks, but Dr. Pennington will stay with us in some capacities, doing some things with assessment. And we appreciate that. Tonight, I asked him to bring a report to you about all things related to the arts. Dr. Pennington, thank you.
I appreciate it. Dr. Freeman, a couple of things that you don't hear about a man on the side are the little things that people do. And two things that stick out in my mind. Dr. Freeman and I met a few years before I came here, and one of the things that really stuck out was the time that he took after my first interview in the school system to coach me on some of the things that to always remember. One of them was to always know your audience, because I came in pretty hot during that interview with a lot of information, a lot of data. And he said, you got to know who you talk to. He was absolutely right. He knew. And then not long after that, I received a job down in Mobile. And first day I was down there, he called me just to thank me. And those are the little things that people do that mean so much to someone like myself and all the people that you've influenced over your term and your tenure as a leader at different schools. So I appreciate what you've done. On behalf of everybody that you've impacted, thank you very much for that. Well, let's talk a little bit about arts education. So how do you know when you're accomplishing your goal as an arts education teacher? Well, the opportunity to bring out the uniqueness and how to be different, feeling that you're a part of something bigger than yourself. The opportunity to share words that you cherish with those that you hope will do the same. The moment to coach, living in the moment and knowing that you have an impact on your group. To see the accomplishment light up in a face, even behind a mask. To know that it means as much to a student as it does to you, which is not always easy to see. The moment you know that they finally get it. Watching the individual translate everything from the page to the instrument. Watching the person translate everything from the mind to the canvas. Only to see the same thing at a time when you didn't expect it. Or how about through the joy of just getting to do something different during the day that you wait to do? When you know that someone is having a great day and you see yourself at their age and the impact you know you've had an experience, the feeling you get when you've inspired others to follow your passion for the craft. The feeling you get when you spy on someone going the extra mile to achieve a high level of performance. To remember how great it was to experience a memorable performance with a group. Or to know how good they become when they are too young to know better. Dedication to excellence. It's a trait crafted in arts education experiences. To reach a child at the beginning of their grade level experience, or to see it culminate at the end. That's why arts education teachers do what they do every day, every week, and all year long. It's a very hard thing to express, to know what you see as a potential in a child beyond the math, beyond the words, beyond the structure, to be able to reach 2% higher in artistry and find something that you didn't even know you had in yourself, and somebody inspired you to do it, and you want to share that feeling with others. That's what arts education is, and it's not an easy job because you know how good they are and you know what they're capable of, and you want to take them to that level, and sometimes you have to be very creative on how to get to that point. Now, the slide that you see here is a new opportunity for our middle school students. Ms. Faith Linhart has been working very hard with the state of Alabama, and she has secured a grant through the state of Alabama to offer dance class opportunities to our 2 middle schools. And this is a huge, huge thing because as we expand and we look at our strategic plan and we look at our goals 1, 2, and 3, the one thing that we don't want to do is get comfortable with where we are, because the moment we get comfortable with where we are, we don't set the pace anymore. And so the opportunity to share this experience with our middle school students it's the opportunity of a lifetime for these children. And we want to really promote this. We would love to see this expanded down to the elementary level because other school systems, well, yeah, they do it, but they're not going to do it to the fidelity that the state of Hill City Schools does it. There's just no way. And we know that. And so to have this opportunity is very meaningful. I'm going to ask Faith, would you share a little bit about this awesome accomplishment and what it means to our program?
For Jamie Stevenson, the theater teacher, and I, it's just huge because we have never had a seat at the table at the middle school. So we're going to be able to reach those kids and give them that opportunity and hopefully be able to start building our programs earlier. But also just to be, there's not very many schools in the state that offer theater and dance 6-12. Like we will be one of the few. And so that makes us really proud, but we're really excited. We're excited to get started on it.
Well, thank you for sharing. And I think it's important to note that everything that's happened up to this point has been standing on the shoulders of those who came before the ones that you saw up front earlier in the meeting. And the one really great thing besides getting to build the legacy wall at Pizzitz was going through the hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of pictures of the arts education program, among other things, since the inception of the school system. And to see how small the arts education program was at that time and what it's become now is truly amazing. And it's a gift that I'll take with me because I knew a lot of the people that taught in the Vestavia Hill City School System. Even as a child, I knew him because of my association with my band director and him being around what we call the old war horses, the old band directors. You know, Dr. Galloway was one of those. And knowing that where we are right now, we stand on the shoulder of a lot of people that did some absolutely amazing things for this school system. I'm gonna try to use this a bit. There we go. All right, some quick facts really quick, research-based. A lot of this you already know because this community is so strong in arts education. But there's some tidbits that I want to share with you really quick. A study of 7,500 university students revealed that music majors scored the highest reading scores among all majors, including English, biology, chemistry, and math. Along with that, students who were exposed to music-based lessons scored a full 100% higher on fractions test. I didn't know that was even possible. That's an astonishing number when compared to those who learned in the conventional manner. Schools that produce the highest academic achievement in the United States are spending 20 to 30% of the day on the fine arts with special emphasis on music. And the interesting thing to note about that is most of our schools spend at least 40% of the day at Vestavia Hills doing this. Students taking courses in music performance and music appreciation scored higher on the SAT than students with no arts education. Now, I couldn't find the same research data for the ACT, but of course, those two assessments are very comparable in their purpose and what they're intending to do for our colleges. Music performance students scored 53 points higher on the verbal and 39 points higher in math. Arts education students in skills needed in the workplace are flexibility, the ability to solve problems, communicate, the ability to learn new skills, to be creative and innovative and strive for excellence. Well, that's everything that's needed in business. If a child's going to succeed in today's world, all of these things are important. Yet not every school system gets the opportunity to focus on their students like we do through arts education. Music lessons and even simply listening to music can enhance spatial reasoning, critical higher brain function necessary to perform complex tasks, including mathematics. It's all about the abstract. When you start thinking about algorithms and you start thinking about formulas and you start thinking about answers to math problems, and then you can take it and push it to the abstract and start thinking outside the box. You know, we talked about new math for years. That's the jargon that we talked about, and some of you parents are familiar with it by now because your children come home and they're doing math problems differently. Well, this has been going on in arts education as long as I can remember. You know, you want to take a student and you want to find out how they can be as creative as possible to get to the same answers the person standing next to them. That's arts education. So as we focus on goal 1, to ensure that students learn and demonstrate a profound understanding of knowledge and skills consistent with expectations of teachers, parents, and the community, and ensure that students find value and meaning in the work provided to them. The question is, how does VHCS provide support for goal number 1 through arts education classes, offerings, facilities, resources, and staffing? So you see a breakdown of where we are with what we offer. My wife tells me that's green. I will take her word for it. All I can tell you is that when you see the colors, those are where we have opportunities. We don't miss the mark. We have opportunities. We see where we are and where we want to be. And as you look at that, you can see a very healthy and robust setup for all of our schools. All right, so within that framework, where does our additional support come from? So we know how many teachers we have in all of our schools. But here's a little unknown secret probably for a lot of you is that there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. This is the responsibility of the arts education teachers at VHCS. I'll never forget the parent that came to me, they had no clue what we did. This was years ago. And said, you guys just sit in. One of the questions was, do you just sit in there and play the fight song until the next football season starts? They had absolutely no clue what went on behind the scenes. Well, as you dig deeper and you look at the success of the arts programs at Vestavia Hill City Schools, you'll notice that there are a lot of supporting factors going on that a lot of people probably don't realize. We have adjunct teachers that come in that work with our VHS choirs. We have adjunct staff that actually come in and work at the middle school level doing sectional work and lessons with our students in instrumental music. We have theater instructors that come in, adjunct teachers that come in and support our students. Specialization, that occurs a lot when it comes to support in performance. You've got accompanists that come in and they do performances, they do rehearsals. One of our choirs performed last year at AMEA, and we took our own accompanist with us, who was a regular and everybody knew. The kids knew, the staff knew, the school knew. And this is a healthy relationship that we have with our community because as these adjunct people come in, a lot of them aren't supporting any other school systems because of the relationship that they've built with the State Hill City Schools. So programs offered. K through 5 students get elementary art and music, middle school art, band, and choir. Freshman campus and high school art, band, choir, dance, and theater. All right, so student participation. This was a very hard slide for me because I actually had a lot more to put on here, but if I had put it on here, you wouldn't have been able to read it because the font would have been so small. What you need to know is that as you see these numbers, and I do the research into the National Association of Music Educators and NAEMM, who was mentioned earlier in the meeting today, we are categorically 2 to 4% percentage points higher in student participation than most schools in the nation, across the board. In fact, when you see a number like you do for K through 5 students where it says all students, typically that's 83% participation in most elementary schools in the nation. But because of the support of VHCS, we're able to provide everybody the opportunity to experience the programs that we offer in the elementary schools. Again, you see the color boxes. That's fixing to change because we're fixing to add dance to our middle schools. And so we get to check another box off as we move forward. We also get to change theater. That's another thing I didn't mention, Faith, and I apologize if I said something and it wasn't. Do we have our theater?
She's not here.
Okay,
all right. I won't tell her.
She would have jumped. It's amazing. We talked about it. Cheryl and I talked about it. That we compare performances. We've done that ever since we've met. We compare performances. And I won't get into who all we compare, but we compare them across schools now and now 2 years ago and everything. And we're absolutely amazed at the quality of the performance that the students provide at the middle school and the high school. At both the middle schools and the high school. And the reason we're able to do that is because, again, the staff that is here and the community support that enables them to take it to a different level that most school systems can't imagine. So the grant is going to serve both dance and theater. So they will also get an opportunity for theater class at the middle school at both locations. Accomplishments, I'm not going to read all these because they're just accomplishments after accomplishments after accomplishments, which is what you would expect. But a few things do stick out. We talked about how the staff is recognized. The high school has 103 graduating seniors receive the Arts Achievement Seal. That's no easy feat to achieve. The Varsity Rebelettes. Now I need to say something about that because junior varsity was national champions, but our varsity was second in the nation. So we took 1 and 2. We just took them in 2 different categories. But we have something in addition to celebrate besides that national championship. And I think that's awesome. The marching band received all superior ratings. I do want to point something out. The theater won first place at both state competitions, and then you look at all the individual awards. It's amazing. I highlighted some of them. Best Leading Actor, Best Supporting Actor, and All-Star Cast, and this is in the state of Alabama. Also, something really unique happened with our middle school choirs this year. They knew where their students were when it came to learning the music standards and translating that into an assessment. And because they knew where they were, because they got to collaborate, they talked about, why don't we approach this in a different way? So they set up their own clinic between the 2 schools working together. And then they got together and they performed together, 2 middle schools performing together. Knowing that they're not going to perform to an audience, but just so that they can perform with each other. It's an absolutely amazing thing to do. And the kids ate it up. A few individual accomplishments. Lindsay won the district competition level for Visual Arts Achievement Program. And then Serene won the district competition level at the Lions Club International Peace Poster Contest. At East, we had a finalist in the State Superintendent's Visual Art Contest. That was Porter. And he was every bit as humble and quiet down there on the stage in Montgomery as he was here. It's pretty amazing what he was able to do. You know, if abstract art were easy, then everybody would be Picasso or Jackson Pollock. But our teachers are able to pull out of them that fundamental approach and let them be expressive themselves. And that through that interpretation, others get to appreciate it. Professional learning. This is something that we worked hard on this year to try to establish an approach. You see the usuals, the AMEA, the AAEA, and the ABA, a lot of acronyms up there. But the one thing that we wanted to do was to set up a way for our arts education teachers to network and to collaborate and to discuss things like, hey, let's put aside the assessment and let's get together and sing and go through a clinic together. That wouldn't have been possible had we not had the opportunity for establishing a healthy and robust PLT session, which happened quarterly throughout the year. And some of them would meet off campus and some of them would go and do site visits to see what the other facilities are at comparable school systems. But they got an opportunity to work together, and that is a result of the work that Dr. Rainey did in helping us to set those PLTs together and put them forward. And I can't tell you how many of the arts education staff appreciated that. It's a very unique place to be when you don't feel like you don't fit in just a particular category, and then you're allowed to get together and work towards a common goal. So next year, it's already been mentioned, the expansion of dance and theater class that offers in the middle school level. And this was through being the recipient of the ALSD State Arts Education Grant for Dance and Theater. And this is not the first time we've gotten this grant, but it is the first time it's been applied in this fashion. So we have a track record of taking money that the state provides and turning it around and making things better for our students. 2 full-time choral instructors for the high school, and that will assist at the freshman campus as well. And as you heard today, the arts education, or the arts coordinator for the system. And I think the most important thing to take from that is a lot of places have to have an arts education director. Personally, I don't feel like that's necessary. I feel like coordinator is the way to go because the staff is so good, you need somebody to help them put all the pieces together because they already know what they're doing. And most places that have a director, it comes across as being, we're going to tell you what to do. And that's not necessary here. And I think everybody's in agreement once you listen to all the things that have happened and from the people themselves. A coordinated position was the absolute best decision that the school system could have made. I think that's awesome. Professional development for the future. Some of that is going to be related to multi-year sessions for the grant related to theater and dance. Hopefully continued quarterly district-wide PLT. And then full return to organizational conferences. You know, we ran into some issues when it came to COVID. We were right at the tail end of COVID and trying to make sure that people had the opportunity to go. But I think once things now have settled down, everybody's going to get back into the swing of going to those organizational conferences. And what's important about that is Vestavia Hill City Schools usually represents at a conference. And what a great way to feature students. Technology. They don't want to let go of their Apple products, and I guess they should, given the fact that most of the art programs are designed for Apple OS. So, I talked with Keith. Keith said we're going to keep it going. We're going to keep the information that they need up to date in their software, and the memory will be enough, and they'll have enough processor power so they can get to continue to do what they're doing. Visions for the future, facilities upgrade to support increase in arts education participation and success. Initiation of a system-wide strategic art plan. That's really not a really good way to put that. I think it would be a better thing to say a system-wide arts education goals plan. I think that's much more appropriate. The TV's tired.
Your time is up.
I have a question while we wait. So the offerings at the middle school, will those be like courses that you register for, like choir or Spanish, or are they like a fourth period elective?
We've got some information on that, exactly how it's going to play out. Is that something that you have discussed at the middle schools that you can share?
Yes, and Dr. Rainey, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that it's going to be during their activities period, so fourth period at Liberty Park, and then 8th period at Pizzitz, and then the kids will stay until 3:30 at Pizzitz.
I see the principal shaking their heads.
No, we're excited. They'll be offered age for us.
Other questions? Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, appreciate it.
All right, a lot of good things to celebrate with our program. And again, if you have a chance to go to a lot of events over the next few weeks, they're out there for you. I want to cover just briefly a few things with you related to salary schedules, as that has generated a good bit of buzz across the state. And what I think is a great accomplishment for educators across the state. There were several things that took place in the legislative session that were beneficial, and partly, or mainly, I think, for efforts to make sure we are retaining good educators and also beginning to recruit better. That's been a problem in our state. That's not really been in Vestavia Hills, and we are unique in the state in some ways. But I want to talk with you about the legislation relating to salary schedules this year that has brought about some questions that I want to answer, some tonight and some I'm not ready to answer, but just to give you an idea and to hear from you any thoughts you've got. So let's just in summary, with the two pieces of legislation that were passed and the governor signed, one of those will mandate that every employee in Vestavia Hills City Schools receives a 4% salary increase. And so that is a non-negotiable. That's everybody gets 4%. That is an employee of the school system. Depending on degree and years of experience, some teachers, interventionists, reading coaches, counselors, and librarians will receive additional increases to match the state schedule. I'll explain that more in a moment, but what you see is a list of all those who are certificated personnel, not counting administrators. Some of those would get additional bumps. Additional analysis of the salary schedule is ongoing, and I'll talk more about that as well. So the first slide that I want to show you is a representation of the employees that are part of our school system that have master's degree certifications in education. So most of our employees that have certificates to teach are master's level. So I'm using masters just as an example. But in the current school year, for those positions that are funded by the state, what you see in the orange, or that largely shaded area, is the portion of their salary that's covered by the state. That is the minimum state matrix. What we have been doing for years customarily is we are paying above the state matrix, which is a great tool for recruiting, and that's one of the value adds of being a part of our school system. We pay an additional amount that you see in blue. So when you compare what the state pays a teacher with a master's degree based on years' experience versus what we pay, we stay above that line. Now, what you see is it completely levels off at 27 because that's as far as our schedule goes. So anybody above 27 makes that same amount. That's the current year schedule for master's degree. Now, the legislation that passed creates a little different, more complex situation for us. What you're looking at now is a depiction of the state's new minimum salary matrix and what we would pay if we gave only a 4% raise, which we are going to do, of course, because that's required. But what you see is a similar gap that we have between what we pay above the state, what the state gives us, until about year 16, and then it starts beginning to decline in terms of what we pay versus state to a point at year 30. The state matrix goes above what Vestavia Hill City Schools matrix is. So this schedule and EDS, teachers that have an EDS, it happens at year 30. For a bachelor's certificated teacher, it would happen at year 33. For a doctorate, it would happen at year 25. And this is roughly about 20 teachers in total or so, give or take a few. But about 20 teachers of all of our 500 plus teachers would be impacted by this situation. So when I tell you that some teachers, interventionists, librarians, counselors will get more than 4%, they automatically do because we have to stay at the state's minimum matrix. But what is important, I think, to note here is that there is a decreasing gap between what we pay and what the state pays and what we pay. So the additional analysis we have to do is determine, once we get our revenues from the state and once we determine what we think our local revenue projections next year, can we do anything else with that blue category for 22, 23? Because we want to the extent we can, more. Now, can it be the same as 21, 22? I can't say for sure. I think that may not be possible completely, but we want to do as much as we can. We just don't know at this point. But I want to make sure that I can, as simply as I can, explain this, that this is the way it's always been. The state, for the units they give us, pays this amount and then we pay more. So when a raise takes place, such as 4% in Vestavia Hill City Schools, what that blue cost us is $820,000 more dollars than what the state will give us for those teachers. In addition to that, we have about 85 teachers that we pay the complete salary for locally, which allows us to have the arts, other career programs, additional things that other schools may not be able to do. So in total, the 4% raise, the state only provides us their orange portion. We will put in an additional $820,000. And when you add the little areas where we would be below the state matrix, it's going to cost us in total about $1 million locally for the raise. That's an investment, and we understand that, and that's a good thing for our teachers. But we are now looking, and we'll be evaluating over the next 2 months, this blue section to see if we can do anything else for bachelor's, master's, EDS, doctorate. Now, I want to share this with all the teachers over the next week. I'll be visiting the schools to do that and try to answer as many questions as I can. But I wanted you to first see it and get an idea of what we're contemplating with our salary schedule next year. An idea would be bringing to you, like we typically do in June, to ask you for a vote. So what questions do you have?
I think it's important to note, and this is something I did not appreciate until I joined the board, is because we live in, because we live in Vestavia, our ad valorem taxes are basically what is paying this blue increment of $1 million. And so, but that's why you live in the school district, is so we can pay our teachers more, seemingly get better teachers, offer salaries, but I mean, I think it's an important education step to understand, for all of our faculty to understand, as the principals talk and you talk, that, look, if the state gives us money for salaries, Courtney, what do we do with that money? It's salaries. It can go nowhere else but salaries.
That's right.
And then what we do with the ad valorem tax, which is why pretty much everybody chooses to live here to pay that, is to help fund, to get us the best teachers and the most teachers in our classrooms. And that's, I mean, that is, while we've had to learn, I don't think that is widely known in our staff and in our community that it is a significant and very important investment that all citizens make to help supply our schools, but it does cost money.
And my responsibility, when Courtney and I work through this, will be to bring to you something that gives as much blue as we can give. Because that's what we want to do for our teachers. We just don't know at this point. We have not actually received our revenue from the state.
Do you know when you expect that?
It typically comes, the governor signed the bill about a week and a half ago, and we should be getting it in the coming days. It will take some time for analysis. So that's why I say June board meeting, I'll bring you a salary schedule. We will know something, I think, in June about what we can do. And of course, once you guys act on it, we'll let our staff know. But we will be working hard to see as much blue as we can on this graph.
These are good graphical
Yeah.
representations. They help you understand.
Principal, is this going to work? Anything that is cloudy to you that I need to do? Okay. I'm going to share the slides with you so you can project them for us in the next few days. That's it.
All right, good job. All right. With business being conducted, this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, everybody.